Live, this is One for the Record. I'm Diana, and today is May 26, 2012. It is Saturday, going into Saturday evening, and here's your update for today. It is the Memorial Day weekend. Heads up. Just a reminder, banks might be closed. Schools might be closed on Monday. Check, make sure. Post office is not going to run on Monday. Trash might not run on Monday, and the banks are most likely closed. And here we go. Let's start off with the E&E news this time around. I usually save the best for last, but this is my second attempt. I did the whole report, and of course the mouse rolled off of the table and closed the window somehow, and now I'm re-reporting this whole thing that I just did. Amazing. And amazing how you can't retrieve what you just recorded, if you sign off before it publishes it. I'm sure they have a record of it somewhere. They have the record at YouTube. You just can't get to it. E&E News update. Fukushima is not 4.5 Chernobyls of cesium-137, but it is worse. Doubly ironic that it is all thanks to Yomiuri Shimbun, pro-nuke establishment newspaper. New York Times. The web has amplified fears that are helping to undermine assurances by TEPCO and the Japanese government that Fukushima Daiichi in stable condition. Heads up, New York Times, you have just been downgraded. You are now Dinosaur Media, part of that, right there, the Dinosaur Media. That's it. One for the record, Diana has just downgraded you. You are obsolete for saying that. Also, crimes against humanity for underreporting what is going on. Thank you very much. You have a nice day. Downgraded New York Times. Worthless. That's my opinion, and I can have an opinion. Let's see, what else is going on? Japanese Vice Minister. Uncertainties remain at Unit 4. TEPCO official. We will inspect reactor building to reevaluate its safety. AP. Bulging wall at Unit 4 renews concerns. Government regulators order investigation of fuel pool and reactor building. Head of Japanese government committee. It's a race against time at spent fuel pool number 4. New York Times. Worthless. Crimes against humanity for underreporting. Since it's not a problem and it's stabilized in New York Times, I expect boots on the ground over there. You go over there. Go over there. The head. Don't send your flunkies over there to get irradiated. You go over there. You know more than scientists, right? I have my master's degree. I have 2 of them. I've had the organic chemistry. I know what's going on with this radioisotopes. I've had physics. Who the hell are you? What the hell is going on with the New York Times? I think the New York Times now is downgraded, worthless. Underreporting crimes against humanity also. Thank you very much. You have a nice day, New York Times. Government TMI investigator Fukushima Daiichi requires a Manhattan Project approach. Accident involving nuclear fuel rods is virtually inevitable. Virtually 100% probability of large quake in 10 plus years required to defuel plant. See what I'm saying, New York Times? Wall Street Journal. First investigation of Unit Number 4 finds slight buckling in an outside wall. TEPCO claims it's far from pool and no danger. Yeah, you keep going what TEPCO says, New York Times. Mayor. We are definitely suffering from... Oh, here you go. Here's a mayor out there. New York Times, listen to this one, Mayor. We are definitely suffering from radiation exposure in our bodies and want health care. Just 2% of Fukushima residents have had radiation testing by government. Oh, heads up also. I heard they're growing, I reported on this, did you? They have to grow Fukushima rice in Australia now. Huh, New York Times, you want to write an article on that one? Why don't you do an investigative report on that and why they need to do that? New York Times. They're idiots. Idiots! TEPCO, unit number 4, wall bulging. Local deformation confirmed. That was yesterday. Deny, deny. Delay, New York Times. Delay, deny. Act like you don't know what's going on. How come you're not over there, right there on site, if it's so safe? And you go. The head has to go over there. Not the regular employees. Let's get the owner go down there. It's like a liability for underreporting, isn't it? You, and especially, I'm sure you know what's going on over there. You could have asked all the scientists what's going on and made a report, a formal report on what's going on. Underreporter. UN radiation expert. Neutron exposure from Fukushima. Criticalities not measured. Neutron exposure from Fukushima. That's from the UN radiation expert. New York Times, what's wrong with you? They're downgraded. I'm sorry. That's the end of that. Thank God for the internet. Thank God. That's right. If it wasn't for the internet, a lot more people would be maimed by radiation poisoning. At least some people are taking advantage of the information and trying to save their families and their own safety and their friends. Oh, listen, here we go. Today, New York Times. This is in the U.S. Canada now. New York Times. Oregon could lie in the path of any new radioactive plumes from Fukushima. It could? No, it does. It's not it could. It does and it has. New York Times. Do you understand? It has. It's gone over Oregon. Do you understand the jet stream? Do you understand the way the air, it traveled over already? Oregon could? Does that mean it could not? No, it already has. You underreported on it. I told you. That's it. Doesn't matter. You know what you're doing. That's it. Downgraded. One for the record downgrades New York Times. It's worthless. That's in my, opinion. As of being a professional, yes, it's my opinion. U.S. Congressman, days before officials can enter fire damage area of nuclear sub. Commander reveals nuclear fuel on board burn sub. Local news, he could not say how much. Yeah, they know how much, and they can figure out the ratio and a mistake factor to figure out how much there is on there, how much has burned. You could get the mathematicians out there, and they can figure it out for you. Thank you very much. You can have a very close approximate estimate. Done mathematically. Thank you very much. Do an algebraic equation, and you could figure it out with a mistake factor of 2 or 3 points. Either way, thank you. Do it on a graph, and you can get pretty close. Alrighty then. Let's see if I, did I do the watchers yet? See, I already did this broadcast before. And not sure. Because this is the second time around. Makes me madder and madder at the New York Times. How dare they say things like that? It's crimes against humanity, and they're downgraded now. Subtropical storm Burrell to make Florida landfall Sunday. Heads up, I don't see a time, but heads up. It's about 300 miles east of Charleston, South Carolina. And it's coming in. Continuing deep ocean changes Earth's water cycle, intensifying with atmospheric warming. China to increase weather manipulation program. So we're having weather wars now. That's nice you increased the program. Heads up. I have not seen anyone take mention and claim that they stopped any storms yet. Stopped any hurricanes. Stopped any tornadoes. In fact, maybe you're making it worse. Rotating thunderstorm produced rare mothership cloud in Texas. When I do another thing, I did do a thing, look on there for weird clouds. I don't think I've gotten that one yet. I think that's news, so I'll do another one later on for you guys. It says, though, May 21st. It was reported, so we'll see. I did do something on weird clouds, though, if you're interested in it. It was back in May sometime. Just go back. You'll see some cool stuff. Typhoon Sanvu expected to veer northeast after weakening tropical storm. That's the year's first tropical storm. And it's over. Where are you? It's kind of... it's by the island of Iwo, near Japan, moving northwestward at a speed of 9 knots. Okay. First hurricane of 2012 Pacific season approaches Mexico's coast. Heads up, Puerto Vallarta. Heads up. It came in sometime today, I'm assuming. If not, it's there. It's a Category 3. It's reached up to a Category 3. Low temperatures in Peru killed 94 children since January of 2012. And again, this was yesterday, magnitude 5.2. Earthquake struck 10 kilometers off the coast of Christchurch, New Zealand. Okay. Now, let me see if there's anything else. Let's go to the Extinction Protocol 2012. And then I got some tips for you for tonight. And maybe tomorrow night too, since Monday's a holiday. Once death worsening around Peru, thousands of crustaceans wash up dead off the coast of Lima. More animal deaths. Heads up. Secret meeting of international bankers to assemble to discuss Eurozone's fate. Greece thrown under the bus. And that's according to London. Lloyd's of London prepares for Eurozone collapse. UK Home Secretary Theresa May will stop immigrants if Euro collapses. U.S. Secretary Institute says Iran has enriched enough uranium for 5 nuclear bombs. Subtropical storm Burrell swells towards U.S. southeast coast. Heads up, Florida. It's coming in Sunday. Inferno Russian weapons shipment en route to Syria. 90 masquerade in renewed shelling. Unending nightmare in Syria. Venus not scheduled to make rare transit past the sun again for 105 years. Maybe that's where the New York Times gets their information from Venus. The Venetians who are transiting by right now. 50 years later, underground coal. 50 years later, underground coal seam fire still burning in Centralia, Pennsylvania. Still burning under the ground. You can see steam coming out of the middle of the ground at the streets. Fault discovered near Lake Tahoe and could generate earthquakes ranging from 6.3 to 6.9, Nevada. Really? Heads up, more massive deaths yesterday. Massive deaths reported among Saiga antelopes in Kazakhstan. Around 540 carcasses of the animals have been found in the country. Heads up, that's a lot. New quake shakes nervous Christchurch, sending shoppers fleeing into the streets. That's it. Now, let's just put this down. Alrighty then, here's your report for today. It would have been earlier, but unfortunately, if you drop a mouse or anything and that screen goes down, then oh well, you lost everything you just reported on if you didn't publish it. Okay, unless someone wants to let me know how I could find my lost files, the lost files that are unpublished. Alrighty then. You have a wonderful, safe Memorial weekend. Heads up. Heads up. If you're going to work this weekend and you're getting off late at night and there's going to be checkpoints or whatever going on, please keep your uniform on so they know you are not coming from a party. You're coming from work. Keep your apron on. Keep your hat on. You know, keep your uniforms on. If you're coming from 7-Eleven or some restaurant or a bar that you're working at but you're not drinking, please, good idea to keep your uniform on so they know right away at the checkpoint, oh no, he's coming from work or she's coming from work. Okay, and they might just let you go real fast. Also, if you make sure you have a designated driver. If you are gonna drink a lot, designated driver. Also, if you're picking up booze after work or someone gave you some booze to take home and drink and you're getting off work, please put everything in the trunk. Keep it away from you. You can wait till you get home. Don't open that beer. There's probably going to be a lot of checkpoints out there. Also, remember, keep your uniforms on. Any black bags with booze, anything like that, anything opened, don't open it anyway. But everything into the trunk, everything as far back underneath in the wheel, you know, and where to keep the spare tire, wherever you need to keep it away from you. And make sure you have your driver's license. Here it is, driver's license. Make sure you have your the registration, the right year, in case you had your car for 10 years. Registration, your driver's license, and your car insurance. All ready to go. And if someone's driving you, you have it out right there in that middle container that's in between the two seats. Put it there where you can grab it right away. If you're by yourself, leave it on the seat where you can get to it right away in case there's a checkpoint. Alright? You don't want to be fumbling around and scaring the police because you got to go in your glove compartment or start looking in your purse and dumping out your purse. Get that all ready ahead for the next 2 days, okay? Alrighty then, I just want you to be safe for the holiday weekend. And stay tuned. We got Dr. Bill DEAGLE coming up. After this, it's like 50 minutes long. I want you to listen to it just like if it was a radio station. I did turn the sound off for the commercials because I can't run those, I don't think. They're not my sponsors. And so just listen to it. You don't have to see it. Clean your house for your party, for the barbecue you're having tomorrow. Whatever. Just listen to it and fall asleep. I don't care. But there you go. You don't need to sit there after this report and just stare at the screen. And if it sound goes off, a reminder again, it's the commercials and I can't play those. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I'm not going to check this. I'm going to merge it with my Dr. DEAGLE NutriMedical report, Earth changes, and enjoy. See you again tomorrow.
Picture of that, and it was wrongly attributed to Popocatépetl, but it's a long ways from there. And the ash is heading towards the Gulf of Mexico. So this is one that is not, well, it's just not been very active. The first I heard about it was last March. And so we've got to, we just have to remind people that the seismic area in Mexico and in Central America and in South America and even in the United States is becoming more and more active. And we're going to have more of these ash advisories, and you don't want to, you want to keep aware of them. They may close an airport. In fact, there was a airport closing near Mexico City. The international airport was closed again, I think it was Wednesday. And so you just, it might interrupt your travel plans. But in any case, you don't want to breathe the air because you might get volcanic ashes into your lungs, and that creates a cement.
Yeah, and also when you're flying too, you need to also, I tell people, get our radiation kit, which includes NIOSH N95 masks. They think, oh, well, they're not going to happen in the aircraft. We had one gentleman just a few weeks ago send us a photo of over 1,000 counts per minute flying over Washington State, which a radiation plume must have come over from Fukushima. 30,000 feet plus. Yeah.
Very important. The N95, what that means is that they will, N95 respirators are designed to filter particles down to 0.1 micron diameter in size with a filter efficiency of at least 95%. Now, normally the ash is not that small. In other words, it's not down, it's like 1 micron. It's not a tenth of a micron. So you will get the ash. You will not get the ash. However, you still might get the VOG. The VOG, V-O-G, is called the volcanic organic gases. And if you breathe those, the H2S, the hydrogen sulfide, if you have it in any concentration at all, you'll die. The carbon dioxide, it can suffocate you. The sulfur dioxide, the SO2, it can suffocate you besides burning you. So you want to, we are moving into a geological active time, and we have been since, oh golly, probably 1,000 years ago, and things are, they remember Krakatoa, and now we have Son of Krakatoa, and a lot of the Indonesian volcanoes and volcanoes in South America were once considered extinct, and now they're becoming active.
Even in Iran, there's extinct ones. Let's tie this all together with what's going on in terms of the world geopolitics. We have North Korea getting more aggressive about doing a nuclear test. We've got all these nuclear sites all over America where basically they're not securing the nuclear material. I told, and some years ago back, right after 9/11, Senator Daschle was at that time the head Democrat senator, and told us that, look, we need to make certain that we secure this area around the around Rocky Flats, because they had liquid radioactive waste sitting out on pallets and on concrete, areas, flat areas. They were literally out in the open, unprotected, containing liquid plutonium and other radioisotopes. The fact is that we don't really have proper safety procedures increasing, and the removal of Jasko, I think that's my pronunciation of his name, who is trying to get increased safety procedures, I think is very concerning. What's happening in Japan, of course, the public are rising up so much they're not going to have any nuclear power. Now, I don't believe any nuclear stations have ever, quote, run a profit. We could if we do them properly, but they never did it properly. Secondly, you can't have stored on-site years and years of radioisotopes without great danger. And you certainly have to stop the use of depleted uranium munitions that are salting the earth, and your countries you're supposedly relieving from the enemies of actually salting Iraq and these other countries with depleted uranium. So we have all those things, and on top of that, the earth changes that are occurring. Here's the ones that are most concerning. We're seeing an increase since last March 11th of last year, a 500% increase in Japan of earthquakes of 5+, which means a level 6 earthquake is going to hit sometime in the next 6 months, which means cooling pool number 4 is going to fall. And the worst part about that is not just the zirconium fire, which is really bad, but the fact that the area will become so radioactive they can't do anything around any of the buildings again. Anybody here, even suicidal, going into that area is going to die. They should have put tents over them. They should have put a seawall. They should have put a aquarium catcher underneath it. They've done nothing except literally on the weekends they go home. We have radiation, 80% of it probably tunneling under the oceans or blowing across the ocean to us, going into the Black or Humboldt Current, which can affect not only the fishery in Alaska, which is the #1 fishery, but going all the way to South America, where now we're seeing whales and dolphins actually dying and beaching up in Peru. I mean, this is how these animals are dying. We see stewards and stewardesses showing not dry cleaning problems, but sores on their body caused by radioisotopes absorbed at high altitude. And I'm certain the biggest problem we have is the lack of data. Like the data that was posted up by Alexander Higgins the other day, that everybody was thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? We must be having a big radiation release on the 16th of May, when in fact he was reporting a radiation burp of radioiodine-131 that occurred 6 weeks earlier, we think, approximately, based on the data. So Japan is covering it up, our government's covering it up, the United Nations has been asked by former Ambassador Murata to do something, and nothing's going on. We have the craziness of the Israeli government thinking that it's a good idea to attack the Bushehr reactor, which is a live reactor fully fueled now, that if they hit it, it'll be considerably worse than Chernobyl, added to the radiation dangers of what's going on in Fukushima. So this is going to start degrading not only our life form, humans, but all of the life forms on Earth. And we're already killing the oceans. We have tens of thousands of dead zones, and we are chewing up the ozone layer with Fukushima radioiodine and xenon-133, which means we're getting ridiculously high ultraviolet light caused by that and the decreasing magnetic field of Earth as we move through the galactic plane. So if people think this is a conspiracy theory, they're uninformed.
About I continue.
Well, today's a very busy day. This is one for the record. We're live. Go ahead and listen to this just like it as if it was a radio program. I just can't play the commercials. So as soon as the commercials are over, the volume will be turned back up and you can listen to more of the NUTRIMEDICAL program from Friday, which is today. I'll put it on tomorrow. And enjoy. Just go ahead and keep doing whatever you're doing and listen to it just like a radio program. Best way to handle that one instead of staring at a blank screen. Unless I change my mind and I edit this all apart. I don't think I'm going to, though. We'll see. I might have to, though. It's just the volume's very bad when I do that. The commercial is still on. And nothing new is going on today, so it It is a holiday weekend. Again, it's Memorial Day, so just listen to this as a radio program so you can get things done around the house and you don't have to sit still. You can get some exercise, whatever, and you got the latest on what aired on Friday, May 25th, 2012. I will though maybe put in some UFOs, and I have a tape ready to go with that I put together from the Commons, Creative Commons, so I might add it to this, but if I do, the volume might get messed up, so we'll see what we're going to do. Nope, still a commercial. I didn't forget about you guys. I'm just doing stuff around the house. So, and I don't even know if you'll be able to hear me if this goes to Creative Commons.
System supports weight.
So it's just a blank screen. I might just put across it Dr. DEAGLE NUTRIMEDICAL report. Post it tomorrow.
The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
Welcome back, and new information about earthquakes and volcanoes. Give us some of that information, and because as these things increase, by the way, the consequences are going to be difficulty to grow crops because we're moving into an ice age, decrease in ozone layer, which means we're going to get radiation shock. We tell people over the weekend, I just went and checked our UV index here over Vista, which is relatively mild compared to, say, the high desert, Arizona, and other places, Texas. Our UV index on Sunday and Monday is going to reach up to around 11. That's dangerous. So I tell people between 11 and 3, don't be outside. And if you are, be broad-brimmed hats and proper clothing covering your body, because we're not dealing with normal sun we had even as a kid that would give you just a sun blister or a second-degree sunburn. We're talking about sun that can cause cancer or immune depression, and ultraviolet light that can cause DNA damage. And we're not just talking about your skin, it can cause problems deeper in your organs, because this type of high-energy light penetrates much deeper than the skin into the body. It can also cause retinal damage, too. And people think, oh, no, it's only during a solar eclipse. No, we have a different sun now. It's a toxic sun. And during the middle of the day, even in a cloudy day, 90% of that ultraviolet light, the A light is the tanning light, the B is the burn light, the C is cancer, and D. And the higher the energy you get, the more the clouds don't mean a thing. So even though you're cold and you're outside, and, oh, it's only in the 60s, you can get not only a sunburn, but you can actually get C and D light, and you're not even aware that it's suppressing your immune system, or it's causing DNA damage, or even penetrating deep into the organs of your body. Not just your skin. You can penetrate quite deep.
Well, you know, if you're going to have we're going to have a UV index of 11 here on Sunday. And 11 is where the EPA says you don't want to go outside. And if you do have to go outside, don't stay outside. Now, the glass in your windows in your car will protect you, and the glass in your windows in your house will protect you, because UV will not go through glass. And I recommend buying glass sunglasses, and they have some out that have a 455 designation, and that is for the deep UV. So what you want to do is you want to get the 455 glass sunglasses, and that should protect your eyes. Otherwise, you're going to end up blind. I see all sorts of pictures of people expecting to be at the seashore, at the lake, or around swimming pools this weekend, and those people don't realize that by the time if they're young, by the time they're 30, they're going to have skin cancer and they're going to be blind. And that's not what you want when you're 30. I mean, it's bad enough when you're 70. The reason that the deep UV is coming through is because there's a thinning in the stratosphere. The stratosphere normally would take the deep UV and convert oxygen molecules into ozone. So why isn't that happening? Well, they just did a study and they took a picture and they sent up a satellite, they took a picture, they analyzed the data, and what they've discovered is that there's a huge ozone hole over the Arctic Circle. And it's not just over the Arctic Circle, it comes down over Greenland. And
yeah, but it's thinning elsewhere. There's a hold up there, but it's thinning elsewhere. And it's due to xenon-133 and radioiodine, which are speeding up the chemical reaction to degrade the ozone, plus the decreasing magnetic field. You need three things to make an ozone layer to protect us from cosmic background radiation, which is why travel in space is so dangerous. Cosmic background radiation literally is like living in a microwave. And if you don't have an ozone layer, that radiation gets through. So magnetic field of the Earth is decreasing. Oxygen levels are dropping on the planet because, as I mentioned, we'll peak oxygen. And then the third thing is this massive chemical reaction chewing it up because of radioiodine from Fukushima and xenon-133.
Yeah, we do see a thinning of the stratosphere over desert areas and over the ocean. The farmers, I think, are going to have to change their farming practices. They're not going to be able to allow their fields not to contain oxygen-producing plants. If they want to get enough oxygen into the air to get up to the stratosphere to be turned into ozone so that it'll capture the UV, the deep UV rays from the sun, we're going to have to stop having barren land. Right now we're having a drought, and it's in especially New Mexico and in western Texas and Arizona, up into the Four Corners
That's
states.
why we need projects like NAWAPA, the North American Water and Power. We have to realize that having deserts is dangerous. The ultraviolet light, for example, over the desert areas of Africa, over Saudi Arabia, and over the areas of the Sahara. By the way, Sahara is so big you could drop the continental U.S. into it and you wouldn't even find it in one portion of the desert. That's how big the Saharan desert is.
Well, yeah, and we're turning our Midwest into a desert. And
well, the Dust Bowl back of the 1930s could happen again easily because of our stupidity.
Yeah. Okay, I did want to mention a very important volcano it's just off the coast of Greece, and it's called Santorini. It's on Santorini Island, so it's halfway between Greece and Crete and Turkey. So if you know where those countries are, then it's right in the middle of the Sea of Crete. And when it erupted in 1638 BC, it created a tsunami with a wave height of, can you guess, 150 feet. And this tsunami was responsible for the destruction of the population on Crete. Well, a 150-foot tsunami is a significant tsunami. So I want people to be aware that we have a satellite that is it is declining, it's wearing out, and so we're not getting as much information from it as we used to. But it's called Investat, and what they're doing is they're mining the information that satellite sent back, and what they've discovered is that there's a chamber of magma that's growing, so the whole land has been uplifted at the island of Santorini near Greece. You need to know that, because if you're on Crete and that Santorini volcano goes, you might find yourself under a lot of water. Now, there was a significant earthquake, although it didn't get any press. The North Atlantic Ridge runs between the North American tectonic plate and the Eurasian tectonic plate, and that's the tectonic boundary between those two plates. So on the East Coast, unlike the West Coast, our tectonic plate boundary is way out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and it runs from the Canary Islands up through Iceland, and then further north is the Norwegian Sea. And we had a 6.1 earthquake on the Atlantic Ridge up in the Norwegian Sea at a latitude of 72 degrees north. Well, the furthest north you can go is 90 degrees north, so you can tell that this was very close to the Arctic Circle, and the closer that the earthquakes are to the North or South Pole, the more impact they have on the axis of rotation. They can actually move the axis of rotation. So that was a very significant earthquake, and I would have moved it just in my mind up to a 7.1, just on the basis of where it was located. I hear music.
That's very interesting, very important. All these earthquakes and volcanoes, what they mean is we're going to be facing further dangers of tsunamis. Any coastal areas like San Onofre, Diablo Canyon, anywhere near a major earthquake fault line zone in any country, that's why Switzerland shut them all down. We'll be back in a moment, joined by our nuclear expert, Chris Harris, and get ready to have a great and safe.
Healthy soils grow healthy plants. So before you plant your survival garden this year, is your soil healthy?
Well, it's commercial again, and keep going. Whatever you're doing, I'm cleaning my house. So keep going. You're not going to hear anything for a few minutes. You just hear me in the background cleaning. Nope, still a commercial. Check it again. Nope. Still a commercial. My goodness. I might go on to Craigslist or something and see if there's any jobs anywhere right now while we're waiting.
We are
Oh, here it comes.
the GCN Radio Network.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space.
Welcome back, and we are joined by Chris Harris. And of course, this ties it perfectly together because the earthquakes increase the risk of a tsunami, the risk of a major breakdown. And the latest news on ENE News now that you've talked about, Chris, let's give us the details of what happened and why we're starting to see the buckling and literally the falling down, the collapse of cooling pool number 4, which will make the site completely untreatable. Nobody will, even if they're suicidal, be able to get into the area. And this means a whole new level of disaster. Tell us what's going on.
Well, ENE News is now reporting, actually it's a link from Wall Street Journal. I like to go straight, I like to go to more mainstream sources just to confirm what we were talking about. TEPCO is now reporting that there is a slight buckling of the Fukushima Unit 4 in an outside wall. And then they go on to claim that it's far from the pool, or spent fuel pool in this case, and that there's no danger. They do provide I don't believe that, by the way. I'm saying that if there's any buckling of any wall at all, it will weaken the whole structure because it is basically a giant box. And if you do something to one wall, well, you've just weakened the structure everywhere in the building. They do show some, just like just seen today, they are showing some pretty good detailed report on the actual deformation backed up by photographs of cable trays and cable conduit that you run alongside a wall that's pulled out of the wall because of the deformation is so great. These are supposed to run in straight lines along the wall.
Right, so they're all, in other words, deformation means the actual buckling and bending of the walls. So this is ready to blow, is what they say. It's ready to collapse.
Pulling the pipe supports and everything else out of the wall because that wall will eventually collapse. And once it collapses, anything that's structurally reliant upon its integrity will also collapse. So I don't buy that it's far away from the spent fuel pool and therefore there's no it has no effect on it. I think that's nonsense. So TEPCO is trying to spin it. Unit 4 looks like it's in a state of collapse, and I don't know how fast it will take, and I certainly don't know. It doesn't appear to be stabilized. Let's put it that way. And it looks like that if there are more jolts due to, well, Ann was bringing up the likelihood of larger and more frequent earthquakes in that area. I can't tell you how much it would take for it to topple over or not, but it certainly looks like it's on its way.
Well, one of the comments, too, was one of the mayors said our bodies are definitely suffering radiation exposure. Can you comment on that? Because this is something that's very significant. This is just 2% of Fukushima residents had any radiation testing done by the government. That's obscene. What's going on there? Are they crazy over there? Are they so manipulated and so passive that they'll put up with this? And Americans are not much better. I mean, most people think that we're kind of nuts, even though you're a nuclear expert, and I was a member of ACOM, the American College for Occupational Environmental Medicine Nuclear Division, and I have a background in radiation toxicology. We say these things. We have our scientists on, like Ann Morrison, who's a consultant for radioisotopes and radiotoxicology. Why does the public think that we don't know what we're talking about when they have talking heads that are idiots on CNN and Fox and other networks, when we're the real thing? We're citizen journalists telling them that the government's not doing testing of our air, food, and water that's coming from Fukushima, and that we're having airline pilots and stewards being affected by radiation. I just don't get it. And this is the biggest environmental disaster. This even tops the Macondo disaster that's still, by the way, still percolating down the Gulf of Mexico. That's not any better, is it?
No, that's, I guess, no, it's not any better because, well, let me just, I can't really give you the the projected health effects on this. I think you're actually more of an expert in that than I am, but I'm an expert in the area of the physical plant itself and what's going on structurally and operationally. We did talk yesterday. Let me go digress a little bit about the Achilles heel of that spent fuel pool, and I confirmed it after we got off the air yesterday that the gates in the spent fuel pool gate in a structure known as the cattle chute that goes between the spent fuel pool and the cavity, at the flooded cavity above the reactor vessel head, is removed, and that means that if anything happens to cause a leak in the reactor vessel flange, we looked at a bulkhead and bellows. That's what it was called. If anything happens to that, and that's not a very strong structure, then you will drain a lot of the spent fuel pool. In fact, you'll drain most of it, and you'll do it really quickly. So it looks like to me that could happen. You know, that because if you start getting the buckling in a wall and then you start leaking area, all it would take is one jolt to pull that bellows out of the just break a weld on it. That's all it would take. Remember, the thing is just a thin stainless steel ring that goes around the reactor vessel flange and is connected up to all the sides of the actual containment vessel that surrounds it, and which has already been taxed because it's not supposed to be holding up all that water for such a length of time as it is now. And so it's something that goes corrosion. You can't look at. You can't. Nobody can get in. You're supposed to periodically look at that seal so that you know if it's leaking. Nobody's going in there to doing anything.
Well, let me read an article to back up exactly what you're saying. This is from Robert X. Kringley, Kringley. It's in Beta News, and it says Fukushima Daiichi requires a Manhattan Project approach to avoid another nuclear accident. And he says there in paragraph 2, that accident involving nuclear fuel rods is virtually inevitable, most likely preventable, and the fact that it won't be prevented comes down solely to the Japanese government, Tokyo Electric Company, TEPCO, incompetence and stupidity. Japanese citizens will probably die unnecessarily because the way things are done at the top of Japan is completely screwed up. And of course, it's not just there, it's General Electric. When they had the so-called czar sent over by Obama to announce last year that he was going to go clear it up and get the plant back up and operational. I mean, it's a nuclear waste site, and the fact is even the sarcophagus around Chernobyl is not stable, and that is where the critical mass was actually blown apart, so it wasn't being hypercritical. We have evidence of neutron beams coming off there, which means hypercriticality. We have evidence of a radioiodine surge probably about a month and a half ago that reported 6 weeks later on the ENE News and the what's called the Japan Diary, you know, the Fukushima Diary.
Yep.
The fact is that what's going on here, and yesterday, I want you to recap what you said yesterday about the design of these Mark I reactors. At the top of the reactor, there's a major design flaw that allows it to literally burst like a bubble, and the containment can be completely lost. So tell us about that too.
Well, I think we just went through a little bit about that, and there is something that's a refueling seal that has to be put into place, and when you refuel, remember, Fukushima Unit 4 was in the refueling mode. It was the state of refueling, which makes it different than 1, 2, and 3. So when you need to refuel, you got to pull the containment, the dry well dome. Then you've got to pull the reactor vessel head off, and then what you do is you flood up that cavity that's above it with water up to the level of the adjacent spent fuel pool. Then you have to pull it's like a dam. It's a 35-foot long stainless steel rectangular plate about 6 feet wide, and you pull it out. It's a gate, and you pull it out, and now you have a pathway so that you can move fuel from the spent fuel pool or from the reactor into the spent fuel pool, and it's all done submerged. But that seal that's holding up all that water right now, I looked at it and I would say right now, if I was going to bet on it, I would say that seal is being stressed to its limits because of the seismic activity, the building is state of collapse. It's not really, it's not a strong structural member. It's good for what it was designed for, but we're way beyond what it's designed for.
Exactly. An example of where this is going, by the way, as I reported yesterday from Australia, the Burdekin is an area of Australia's northern food bowl now is successful in growing Fukushima rice in Queensland, Australia. What do you think of that?
And I read that.
So,
I read that. And Ann has a comment.
Unbelievable, amazing. Back in a moment with more with Ann Morrison and Chris Harris.
See? So everything I told you, you knew even before this report. I read that off a few days ago, most of that stuff. So, alrighty, keep cleaning your house or packing or whatever you're going to do. This will be up, tomorrow if you're not doing anything, or at least you got this to listen to while you get caught up on your stuff. Because it's a 3-day weekend. And I will post the UFO thing. I think I'll do it separate. I don't know yet. Because if I put this, if I put this on the Commons, Creative Commons, the volume is too low, and it gets distorted, and it sounds like like you're listening through some kind of megaphone or something. So, you'll hear when it comes back. I'll turn the volume back up. I myself am running around the house cleaning up the pets and everything. So, taking care of business, yeah. Pets are being so well behaved. Incredible. Yes, you are. You are incredible. Little munchkins. Mommy's little munchkins. Okay. Let's check on it, see if it's back. It's almost over, I think. Let's see.
14.
Nope, not yet. Keep going. Let's check and see if it's back.
But they're going.
Nope. Well, if there is any new news tomorrow, that will go on Saturday. I'll add that into here, and I'll tail end it or put it on the front. I'm thinking I'm going to put it on the front of this.
The levels.
Oh well. I already reported the news for Friday. Friday's almost done with, so.
I'm searching talk radio.
More important.
Here we go, we're back again.
We are the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome back. Let's have some comments about this latest. Alison McFarland took over the job. The complaints against Jasko is that he was, quote, being abusive to some of the women on the panel, which is not true now. He was basically asking for safety standards, but now it's going to be hard to do that because the appointee was against the Yucca Mountain facility. That's why Harry Reid got her appointed, and Obama recommended her as the replacement. I don't think she's going to be necessarily in the back pocket of industry, and they won't be able to use the excuse that, quote, he was abusive to female members of the 5-member board. So what it is industry wants to race ahead with more dangerous nuclear plants. They want to reactivate, for example, San Onofre, and JASCO said no. San Onofre, by the way, should not be reactivated at all. Most of the nuclear reactors in America need to have upgraded technology, better safety procedures, and all the radioisotopes that are no longer going to be used in the plant or recycled should be removed and put in permanent facility storage through rail cars, not on freeways and in trucks, but in rail cars, taken to a permanent storage facility or more than one facility, ideally something like Yucca Mountain or a tin mine. And they need to be away from aquifers, like there's a giant aquifer. It could be affected by the area around the Yucca Mountain, but it's unlikely. If you dig deep enough, you go 5 to 6, 7 miles, and you put the facility down there, you want it also open so you can actually check it and monitor it to make sure it doesn't become critical or have any other problems. I think all these are doable. The problem I see is lack of cooperation. And when they remove JASCO, I think this is an example of just how corrupt the industry is and also how stupid they are. If they blow this completely like they're doing it in Japan, the Japanese people will not allow nuclear power to ever exist in Japan. People need to understand what's going on is we're killing the oceans, we're killing part of what's called a carbon-oxygen cycle. And that means the world oxygen level's dropping. It means the ozone layer is going to be less, so you can protect all your crops and all your plants outside. It means you can't screw this cycle up. Yes, we have unlimited oil, basically, from the ground, and yes, we're going to need petrochemicals that we don't burn. And yes, you can put more carbon dioxide in the body of the planet will convert it to oxygen, so there's a certain amount of stretch. But you can't kill the oceans with toxic pollution and depleted uranium. You can't be chopping down all the forests and all the other oxygen-producing plants and they expect that there's a never-ending supply of oxygen and not hit what's called that boundary zone of what I call peak oxygen. So nuclear has to be part of our future, but it has to be safe nuclear. And the way it's done now, near fault lines, near tsunami zones, on the coastline, all of this is stupid, and it needs to have enough money put into it that's safe. We also need to have better power distribution, like plasma distribution lines that don't have power distribution centers where you can lose anywhere from 20 to 70% of your power along the power lines. And we need to get into other types of alternative energy, but that's not going to replace our need for petrochemicals. And nuclear, if it's done properly, is safe. Pebble bed reactors, thorium reactors, and I have fusion reactors that need helium-3 with tokamak fusion spiral, tokamak fusion torsion field engines. These are torsion field engines that create a curved time space to compress those particles that approach the speed of light in the center of the reactor, and they fuse the helium-3 and create the blast of plasma energy that's drawn off that plasma field and creates the tokamak reactor engine. And they have had these for years. I mean, when people say, oh, you can't do that, I said, that's not true at all. That's the real danger, is that they think, oh, we want to get rid of all nuclear power. Get rid of old, stupid nuclear power, like you talked about the bad design at San Onofre, and we talked about this before. 1,500 tubes gone wrong. There was a problem with the welding of the tubes and their special plate. They're behind. Can you explain that, Chris? Because this is important. People understand San Onofre does not and should not open with these reactors. They should also switch any nuclear reactor on a fault line to a gas turbine based on liquid natural gas and just be done with it. The idea, if you're near a fault line, forget it. Don't put a reactor there.
Right. Well, in San Onofre, in that case, we found that a design change in the steam generators where a different kind of support system for the tubes, the thousands of tubes.
Yeah, it's not like for like, in other words. You told me, explained it to me. Not like for like. They actually switched the design of the tube, which wasn't safe, and it was venting off tritium and other isotopes, and that's why the tubes burned out quickly, and even quicker when they had a station blackout.
What happens is, because since they weren't supported in an adequate fashion, what happened is with the flow of the secondary side, which is the deep water side, and where it starts turning into steam, the flow actually caused the tubes to start stinging. You know,
vibrating.
They start vibrating, yeah. And the accelerated external wear on the tubes, which was something we do check for. and we can pick it up. And they found it, that that's what exactly
Yeah,
happened.
if you actually X-rayed them or did ultrasound, you'd see actually metallurgical wear, because you get vibrating tubes will cause microfractures in the actual paracrystalline structure of the metal in the tubes.
That's right. And where they started rubbing against a support plate that was there was way in excess of what was designed for, and so that the tubes started to wear. How do you fix that? I really don't know right now, other than
don't fix it, tear it down. You got to start from scratch. It was a bad design.
That is a very bad design.
Bad design. Bad design. Started all over. What they did was something illegal engineering-wise, which is they said like for like, and then they had all kinds of thousands of more tubes, and they changed the design and never checked to see if these things ever vented off tritium.
Each steam generator puts out between 6 and 7 million pounds mass per hour of steam. I mean, so that's a lot of steam. Remember, it's about 13 total. So that definitely is very similar to one I used to work at. And so when you have that much flow, you've got to be able to support the tubes adequately, or else when they vibrate, they go quick, and they all go together too, because that's the other thing too.
Well, they also cause harmonic vibrations. Well, what happens is they also vibrate harmonically because of the same physical structure, so they're going to start getting harmonic vibrations throughout the whole machine.
Yes, the whole thing gets affected like that. Absolutely.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
It's a big heat exchanger. I mean, anyone in your audience is familiar with heat exchangers. It's a big one with big U-tubes, big bent tubes, and they're in a vertical orientation, so that the tube sheet is down at the bottom and the tube is at the top.
Let's talk about timelines and preparedness. First thing, we tell people, get our radiation, the first line of defense kit, radiation kit. Get yourself prepared. We now have PrepareWise food on our site. We tell people to get themselves storage containers, let's say 2 to 5 gallon containers. Get a BEV 200 system and water and a 12-volt pump. Get yourself ready for anything. We got cyclones and hurricanes coming. There's one coming toward the Florida coast, one coming toward the Mexican coast. We're moving into what we call storm season in both Pacific and Atlantic. People need to realize that extreme weather puts our power systems in danger. It also puts in danger these nuclear plants. And the areas where you can grow crops are changing dramatically. When we're talking about moving growing crops from Japan to Queensland and Australia, they don't want to tell the public, but the fact is they're quietly moving chunks of Japan all the way to India. There's an area in Kerala, India, where they moved it. And what would you tell people in terms of preparedness that they need to do right now so they get ready for what can happen? Because I think we're going to have a crash of cooling pool number 4 probably by the midsummer. I think we're going to have at least a partial, panicky evacuation of parts of Tokyo. It should be completely evacuated already, but it's not, because if there is a disaster, they're not going to get those people out of there, and they're going to get highly radiated. They're not doing anything to stop the black current from being poisoned in the Alaskan and the southern hemispheric fishery off of Peru and Chile. Those radioisotope waters are moving there. Within 2.5 years, those radioisotopes from Japan will have literally circulated the planet. So it's not just like, oh, that's the Pacific Ocean problem, that's the problem with California. No. Those radiation plumes are going to go all the way out of the world, and in fact, one of the best ways they go is over the poles. They may not at all even go near North America. They may just go straight over the pole, land in Russia, land in Norway, head down to Central Europe and the Middle East. They can go wherever they want, but the closest way to go over is over the pole.
Yes, well, with this increasing UV index, I think that people need to be aware that they need to protect themselves from the sunlight, and their children too, and their families. And so I'm saying dig fast and dig deep. If you don't have a basement to go to, or some kind of underground room in which to work and live, you need to be thinking about that. If your house doesn't have a basement, you might want to try to sell your house and get into a house that does have a basement.
Or you can get a container and actually put it even into a side of a hill. For $4,000 to $8,000, you get a steel container and build yourself a radiation protectant or a zone. The other thing is these ultraviolet light things are going to dry out crops, dry out plants, and increase the chances of very bad wildfires. And because of the drying out of the west, we're going to see big wildfires this summer, so be prepared. A lot of the mountain areas, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, etc., they're going to have real bad times and already having them. Be prepared. Better to be prepared a year early than a day too late. And for those people on traveling during the Memorial Day weekend, travel safely. Don't drink and drive. Do enjoy yourself. Don't go out in the midday sun unless you're wearing protective clothing and hats, because you're going to get burnt, not just with sunlight, it'll give you a sunburn. It can cause immune suppression, cancer, and many other conditions, because we have toxic sun out there now. And this is not a joke. The earth is changing, and it's going to change for the worse before things get better. Amazing program today. Thank you, Ann Morrison, our regular contributor, and Chris Harris, our nuclear expert. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back Monday with our special, and look out for our newsletter.
And that was the NutriMedical Report. Hope you enjoyed it. And that's it. I'll see you again tomorrow. I might add to this, I might not, depending upon what the news is, but I will see you tomorrow. If we can get this going. Here we go.